Hands numb again. Are DIY projects around your house causing your carpal tunnel to flare up? Well, let's talk about carpal tunnel, what the diagnosis is, what some of the symptoms are like, and what you can do to prevent it. Let's talk about some of the symptoms of carpal tunnel. What people will typically complain about is numbness and tingling that will not be in the forearm, but it will happen in the hand. And usually it goes into the first 4 fingers and half of that 4th digit. The 5th digit here, this 5th finger, will not experience any sensation changes. You can also have pain into the hand. The numbness tingling can get aggravated by driving, vibration type motion such as using a power drill, doing DIY projects around your house like painting, sanding. Any movements like that can flare this condition up. So if you're experiencing some of those symptoms, there is a small chance that it could be carpal tunnel, but we're going to elaborate it into a little bit more depth about diagnosis because that can sometimes be tricky. When diagnosing carpal tunnel, it's extremely important that we rule out other areas of the body first because carpal tunnel can look like other different types of pain. So for example, if you have neck pain on the same side as you have your carpal tunnel symptoms, there's actually a very high probability that the problem is coming from your neck. So first what we do when we diagnose it, or we try to figure out where this is coming from, is we'll actually screen your neck, have you do range of motion in all different directions, do a couple other tests. We'll see if we can alter the symptoms. Once we make sure that the neck is not involved any longer, we look at some of the other symptoms and where they're located. So as I mentioned earlier, carpal tunnel should affect the thumb, this finger, or half of the ring finger. If we're looking at pain or numbness or tingling on the other side of that, it's likely a completely different nerve. Carpal tunnel affects the median nerve. So we'll do test number 1, a median nerve tension test, and we'll put tension on that nerve and see if you get numbness, tingling, or symptoms in the same distribution on your hand. Then we'll do test number 2, which is called a Phelan's test. So it's basically a type of prayer test. And then we will see if it reproduces some of those symptoms. We'll move to test number 3, which is the reverse of that test, where we'll have our hands like this for a period of time, looking to recreate those symptoms. And then test number 4 is actually where we will tap where the carpal tunnel is for a period of time to see if we can recreate those symptoms. If these tests are positive and when the symptoms come on, you can shake your hands out and the symptoms all completely resolve, then we have a pretty good idea that you're dealing with carpal tunnel syndrome. But this is why diagnosis can be tricky, because if you don't rule out the neck, there are times where providers will treat patients just because they have this sort of symptom distribution in their hand, but really the problem is coming from their neck and they don't get any better. We've actually seen people get surgery, carpal tunnel releases, and then wake up and still have the exact same symptoms. And that's because the problem was not being addressed. The problem wasn't at the carpal tunnel in the wrist, the problem was actually higher up in the neck.